When was the last time you sat down on the floor and got back up without thinking twice? I'll be honest with you. I used to avoid it. My knees would creak louder than my old porch steps, and I figured that was just the way life goes when the years pile on. But then, on a foggy morning in a small fishing village in Japan, I watched an 82-year-old man squat to scrub his boat, spring back up, and walk away as if gravity didn't dare bother him. No gym, no fancy sneakers, no protein shakes. Just a life lived close to the ground. It made me smile, and maybe shake my head a little, because I realized I'd forgotten how simple movement used to be. The good news? You can bring that ease back. And it doesn't involve sweating through a workout or pushing your body into pain. It starts with something so gentle, you might laugh at how easy it feels. But here's the little secret. They've been doing it for decades, and it's kept them steady, sharp, and full of life well into their 80s and 90s. So, tell me, when was the last time you gave your legs a reason to thank you? You deserve to keep living the way you love. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. On a cool, misty morning in a small coastal town in Japan, the day begins long before the streets fill with noise. Outside, the air smells faintly of damp earth, the kind of scent you only notice if you've been still long enough to breathe it in. Somewhere nearby, the rhythmic scrape of a broom sweeps fallen leaves from a stone path. It's quiet enough to hear the distant gulls, yet alive with these subtle, almost musical sounds of a day beginning. Inside a modest home with sliding paper doors, Haruko, 78 years young, lowers herself onto a flat cushion beside a low, lacquered table. She moves with a grace that makes the act look effortless, though I know from experience it's not something you can fake. Steam rises from her cup of barley tea, curling in delicate ribbons toward the ceiling. The nutty warmth of it mixes with a faint tang of pickled radish laid out neatly on a small ceramic plate. She isn't thinking about exercise or her quads or staying fit. She's wondering if the clouds will clear in time for her to plant spinach later or if she'll have to wait another day. But while her mind drifts toward her garden, her body is quietly at work. Her thighs tighten slightly to keep her balanced, her hips open just enough to give her spine length, her toes gripping the woven tatami mat beneath her without her even knowing it. These are muscles many of us in the West only call upon during rare occasions, like trying to retrieve something that's rolled under the couch or when a wedding photographer insists on a group shot taken from down low. I remember the first time I tried to join her, years ago. The January air outside bit at my cheeks as I stepped inside and removed my shoes at the door. Haruko smiled and motioned for me to sit across from her. I bent my knees and lowered myself down, feeling immediately like a guest in someone else's body. My knees creaked in protest, my hips felt stiff as wooden hinges, and my back seemed to question the entire endeavor. By the time I made it to the cushion, the kettle had already whistled. I remember laughing, but not because it was funny, more because I was embarrassed at how foreign the motion felt. My legs, which had carried me for decades, suddenly felt like they belonged to someone who hadn't been using them right. The first few mornings, it wasn't pleasant. My joints ached, my balance wavered, and I found myself bracing more than I wanted to admit. But by the third day, something started to shift. The stiffness faded just enough that I could lower myself without feeling like I was about to topple over. Standing up still required effort, but it was no longer a negotiation between my mind and my knees. By the end of the first week, I noticed that my mornings felt different. I wasn't rushing into them. I was arriving at them. My breathing slowed, the room felt a little bigger, and my steps felt steadier. It wasn't magic, it was what's called functional movement. That's the kind of movement that's woven into daily life, not isolated in a workout session. Sitting on the floor requires a slow, controlled descent. It asks your hips to open, your knees to bend deeply, and your core muscles to engage quietly to keep you upright. Standing back up is a coordinated effort, Your legs must push, your balance must adjust, and your arms sometimes assist. And because it's done without conscious strain, your body learns to do it smoothly, almost like a well-rehearsed dance. In the West, we often think of exercise as something separate from life. You go to the gym, you do a workout, you fit in your stretches. But for Haruko, and so many older adults in Japan, strength and balance are baked right into the way they live. Making tea. You're using your legs. Reaching for the sugar bowl on the floor. You're bending and stretching in a way that keeps your spine and hips mobile. The body isn't tricked into health. It's simply kept there by habit. There's something else about starting your day on the floor that I didn't expect. It changes your relationship with the ground beneath you. Instead of seeing it as a place you fall to, you start to see it as a place you live from. By the second week of joining Haruko, I realized I wasn't just sitting on the floor to be polite. I was there because it felt good. My joints seemed less rusty, my balance sharper. Walking down the street, I felt lighter, as though someone had quietly oiled my hinges overnight. And there's a mental shift, too. When you begin your morning this way, you give yourself a sense of calm before the day starts asking things from you. You take those extra 2 or 3 minutes to engage muscles that keep you stable, not because you're chasing youth, but because you're giving yourself the gift of independence in the years ahead. I've seen too many people lose that independence, not all at once, but in little ways. One day, getting down to play with the grandkids feels tricky. The next year, it's off limits altogether. Before long, the floor becomes foreign territory, and with it goes a certain freedom you didn't realize you were holding on to. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Haruko doesn't talk about these things in terms of muscle groups or mobility. She just says, "It feels right." And I've learned to trust that kind of wisdom. It's the same wisdom that says you don't need a mat made of imported rubber or a timer set on your phone. You just need to return, each day, to movements that once belonged to you. 2 minutes. 1 sit. 1 stand. Repeat tomorrow. That's it. Now, maybe the idea of getting down to the floor first thing in the morning makes you nervous. I understand that. I was nervous, too. But here's what I want you to know. This isn't about forcing your body into something it's not ready for. It's about meeting your body where it is and gently inviting it to do more. If your knees won't let you cross your legs, you can sit with them bent off to one side or keep one leg straight. If you need to hold onto a chair or a wall to stand up, do it. That's not weakness. It's just a smart way to build trust between your muscles and your mind. Trust is the real magic here. The more you practice, the more your body starts to believe in its strength again. And once that belief is back, you start noticing changes in other parts of your life. You stop hesitating before bending to pick up something you've dropped. You find yourself reaching for things on lower shelves without worrying about how you'll get back up. You even feel a little pride when you realize you've been moving more without thinking about it. I remember one particular morning about a month into my new habit. The sun was just beginning to edge its way through the sliding doors, casting long, warm stripes across the tatami. Haruko poured me tea, and we sat in comfortable silence. I shifted my weight slightly and realized I hadn't thought about my knees the whole time. I wasn't bracing, I wasn't wincing. I was simply there, sitting on the floor, as if my body had been doing it all along. And maybe that's the point. The body remembers. Sometimes it just needs a gentle nudge to remind it. We live in a world that often tells us to slow down as we age, to be careful, to avoid risk. But what Haruko taught me, and what I now know deep down, is that avoiding certain movements doesn't keep you safe. It slowly takes away your ability to do them. And when you lose that ability, you lose more than strength. You lose the confidence that you can still choose for yourself how to move through the world. Starting your day on the floor isn't about being able to do it perfectly. It's about staying in conversation with your body. Every sit and stand is like a quiet handshake between your muscles and your mind, a way of saying, we're still in this together. And that's something worth keeping alive. By now, the morning mist outside has lifted, the air carrying a soft hint of the sea. Haruko rises from her cushion with the same ease she lowered herself, her teacup still warm in her hand. She glances toward the garden, now ready for planting. I follow her lead, pushing up from the floor, feeling a quiet satisfaction that I can. And if you're wondering whether this little ritual can make a difference, well, I'll just say this: a year ago, I couldn't have joined her without a dozen grunts and groans. Now, I start my day the same way, even back home in my kitchen. 2 minutes. 1 sit. 1 stand. And with every rise, I'm not just standing up, I'm standing into my day, steady and ready. It doesn't happen all at once. That's what makes it so sneaky. The loss starts small. So small you barely notice. Maybe you stop kneeling in the garden because it's easier to just use a raised bed. Maybe you stop sitting on the floor with the grandkids because the couch is right there and it's more comfortable. At first, it's just a choice, a little adjustment. Then one day, you realize it's been months, maybe years, since you've been that low to the ground at all. You don't remember deciding to avoid it, but somehow the floor has become foreign territory. In much of the West, this change is almost built into the way we live. Our homes are filled with chairs, recliners, high beds, and counters that keep everything we need at waist level or higher. Feels practical, even protective. Doctors, well-meaning children, and neighbors start offering advice like, don't risk it, or it's safer this way. And while they mean well, what they're doing, what we're all doing, is slowly teaching our bodies to forget how to get to the floor and, just as importantly, how to get back up. There's no big dramatic moment when it happens. It's not like one day you can, and the next you can't. Instead, it's a gradual subtraction of strength, balance, and confidence. It's so gradual that it hides in plain sight. You go on with life thinking nothing's changed, until something forces you to notice. That's what happened to Robert, a retired mail carrier from Vermont. For decades, Robert walked miles every day, rain or shine, up hills, down driveways, and along icy sidewalks in the winter. His legs were strong, at least he thought so. Then, a few years into retirement, he bent down one morning to tie his shoe. It should have been simple. But when he tried to stand back up, his knees didn't want to cooperate. He had to grab the counter to pull himself upright. It shocked me, he told me later. I thought walking every day would be enough. But this was different. And Robert was right. It is different. Walking is excellent for your health. No question. It strengthens the big muscles in your legs, keeps your heart pumping, and your joints moving. But it's a straight-line movement, predictable and repetitive. Floor work, getting down and back up, calls on an entirely different set of skills. It demands that your hips, knees, ankles, and core work together in a coordinated way. It forces you to shift your weight, to balance in positions you don't encounter when simply walking down the street. Without those movements, the small stabilizer muscles that protect you from falls begin to weaken, even if the larger muscles stay strong. I often think of it this way. Walking keeps you moving forward, but floor movements keep you grounded, literally and figuratively. They teach your body how to handle the unexpected, like bending to pick something up without losing balance or getting back up after kneeling in the garden. In Japan, this skill doesn't fade because it's never set aside. People there don't graduate from the floor to the chair as they age. They continue to eat meals at low tables, kneel to arrange flowers, or sit cross-legged during gatherings. Even simple tasks, like opening a bottom cabinet or sweeping under furniture, keep those muscles and reflexes alive. It's not a workout, it's just life. I remember visiting a small community center in Kyoto and watching a group of women, all in their late 70s and early 80s, seated on the floor in a circle. They were making origami cranes for a festival. Every few minutes, someone would lean forward, shift to the side, or stand to fetch more paper. The movement was so natural, so fluid, it was easy to overlook what was happening. Hundreds of tiny repetitions of balance, strength, and coordination. None of them would have called it exercise, but that's exactly what it was, woven seamlessly into their day. In contrast, in the United States and much of Europe, our daily routines actively remove these movements. Chairs become permanent homes. Recliners let us rise with the push of a button. Grandchildren are told to bring the toy up to the couch rather than us going down to the rug. Over time, our bodies respond the only way they know how, by letting go of what they no longer use. The saddest part? Most people don't realize this loss is reversible. They just assume that once it's gone for good. But that's not the truth. With patience and safe practice, you can reclaim the ability to get down and back up. The challenge is recognizing the loss early enough, and believing it's worth working on before it becomes a crisis. The problem is that help often comes too soon. A grandchild picks up the dropped spoon before you have a chance to bend for it. A neighbor insists on carrying your groceries inside. Of course, these are acts of kindness, but they also steal opportunities for your legs, hips, and core to remind themselves how to work together. The more those moments are taken from you, the less your body expects to use those skills, and eventually, it stops trying altogether. I've spoken to many older adults who tell me, "I'm afraid of falling." And I understand that fear. But what if, instead of avoiding the floor, we made it safe again? What if we focused not on keeping ourselves away from it, but on staying capable of moving to and from it? That's the shift in thinking that can change everything. It's the difference between living in a shrinking world, one where you avoid certain activities because they feel risky, and living in a world where your movements keep you free to say yes to what you love. I've seen how quickly the world can shrink without us even realizing. A woman I met in Arizona used to love tending her flower beds. She'd kneel to plant tulips every spring. But after a knee injury, she started avoiding the ground altogether. At first, she just skipped the wedding. Then she stopped planting new bulbs. Within a couple of years, she'd hired someone else to take care of the garden entirely. It just wasn't worth the trouble, she told me. But I could hear the loss in her voice. It wasn't just the flowers she missed, it was the sense of being part of that living, growing process. In Japan, you rarely see this complete retreat from the floor. The culture itself supports staying connected to it. Meals are often eaten sitting low. Social gatherings happen on tatami mats. Children play on the floor and expect the adults to join them. The environment encourages movement at all levels, so the habit never fades. It's not an individual's discipline, so much as a shared way of life. When I came back from my time in Japan, I noticed how quickly I fell back into Western patterns. High chairs, high tables, couches that swallowed me whole. It was so easy to avoid the floor altogether. And that's when I realized, here, you have to choose this habit. You have to deliberately make space for it in a culture that tells you it's safer to stay away. That choice might feel small, but its impact is enormous. Because once you lose the ability to get to the floor and rise again, so many parts of life start slipping away. You avoid playing on the rug with your grandkids. You stop doing certain household chores. You shy away from hobbies you once loved. Life becomes smaller, not because it has to, but because your body has quietly decided that the floor is out of reach. The truth is, it doesn't have to be that way. This loss is not inevitable. It's a result of how we live. And just as we've trained ourselves out of the habit, we can train ourselves back into it. The key is to notice before it's too late and to start reclaiming those movements, bit by bit. And if you're wondering where to start, the answer is simpler than you think. It doesn't involve an hour at the gym or equipment you have to order online. It starts with a small choice, A choice to reconnect with the ground beneath you. To remind your body that it still knows how to bend, balance, and rise. To keep your world from quietly closing in. Because the real danger isn't just falling. It's forgetting that you can still get back up. On a rainy afternoon in Kyoto, the kind where the soft tap of water against the window feels almost like a lullaby, I visited Naomi. She was 84 years old, sharp-eyed, and quick to smile, the kind of person whose presence made a room feel brighter even on a gray day. She was sitting cross-legged on a cushion in her kitchen, shelling edamame into a small wooden bowl. Every few minutes, she would lean forward to reach the pile in front of her, her spine curving gently, her balance shifting in subtle ways, her core muscles tightening without any conscious thought. She didn't see it as exercise, she called it preparing lunch. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But as I watched her, I realized that what she was doing was more than preparing food. It was a quiet, ongoing conversation between her body and her brain. Each lean forward sent a signal to her nervous system. Each small shift in her weight forced her muscles and her inner ear to coordinate in real time. Her eyes scanned the table, mapping distance and stability without her even thinking about it. All of this was happening without a single deliberate workout movement, and yet it was as much training as any balance class or strength routine you might see in a gym. It reminded me of a study I'd once read from Kyoto University in 2016. The researchers examined older adults who engaged in daily low-level floor movements, kneeling, sitting cross-legged, rising from the floor, and compared them to those who avoided these positions entirely. The results were striking. The first group scored, on average, 12% higher on memory recall tests and had 9% better mood stability. It wasn't magic, it was physiology. These small, functional movements keep the lines of communication between the brain and body open and active. When you move like this, you're not just keeping your muscles engaged. You're giving your brain constant practice in coordination, balance, and spatial awareness. I've felt this myself. Once, I was kneeling to replace a stubborn light bulb in my living room. My arms were overhead, my knees pressed into the carpet, and my balance had to adjust with every twist. In the middle of the task, I caught myself humming a tune I hadn't thought about in years. It struck me, when my body was focused on staying steady, my mind seemed to find space for small joys. Maybe it's because movement like this isn't just physical. It also opens a kind of mental quiet that our busy, chair-bound routines don't often give us. Here's what's happening when you stand from the floor. Your inner ear recalibrates your balance in a split second. Your eyes scan the environment for stability points, and your legs send constant updates to your brain. We're okay, keep going. That's why older adults who keep this habit often feel more mentally alert. They're giving their nervous system daily drills, rehearsals for stability, both physical and mental. And then there's the confidence factor, which is harder to measure but impossible to ignore. I met Mr. Tanaka, an 89-year-old man who still knelt each evening to tend a small family shrine in his living room. His hands were steady as he lit a stick of incense, his back straight as he bowed his head. "It tells me I'm still here," he said simply, "still able to bow." That ritual wasn't just about honoring his ancestors. It was physical proof that his body hadn't given up on him, that he was still capable of participating fully in the moments that mattered. In the West, we often separate the mind and body, as if they are two different houses connected only by a narrow hallway. But movement, especially grounded, deliberate movement, flings the doors wide open between them. When you sit, reach, shift, and stand from the floor, you're inviting your mind and body to occupy the same space again. And when they do, something remarkable happens. You stop thinking only about what you've lost over the years, and you start noticing what you still have. I think about Naomi again, how each movement, from leaning forward to grab another handful of edamame to shifting back upright, was a conversation. It was as if her body was constantly whispering to her brain, "See, we can still do this." And her brain, in turn, was sending back the signal, "Yes, I remember. This mutual reassurance builds over time, creating not only strength and balance but trust in one's abilities. That trust might be the most valuable gift of all. I've seen it in the way Naomi moves around her home without hesitation, in the way Mr. Tanaka lowers himself onto the floor without worrying about how he'll get back up. I've seen it in the faces of people who rediscover this ability after years of avoiding it. There's a light in their eyes, a mix of relief and pride. It's not just about mobility. It's about reclaiming a piece of themselves they thought was gone. And here's the part one loved most. You don't need to overhaul your life to get these benefits. You don't have to start kneeling for long stretches or forcing yourself into positions that hurt. You just have to create small, daily opportunities for your brain and body to talk to each other again. That might mean sitting on a cushion for a couple of minutes while folding laundry. It might mean kneeling to pet your dog instead of leaning down from a chair. It might mean standing on the floor with the help of a sturdy chair beside you. Every time you do it, you're running a full system check: balance, coordination, muscle activation, spatial awareness. And every time, your brain is reminded that you still have those skills. Over weeks and months, the effect accumulates, just like it did for Naomi. The movements become smoother, the balance more automatic, the confidence stronger. In Japan, these habits are simply part of daily living, which is why so many older adults there maintain them well into their 80s and 90s. The act of kneeling at a shrine, serving tea at a low table, or arranging flowers on the floor keeps the body engaged and the mind attuned. It's not done out of fear of losing ability. It's done out of love for the rituals themselves. And maybe that's the real secret. When movement is tied to meaning, you want to keep doing it. Watching Naomi that day, I realized something important. We often think of strength and balance as things we have to work at, like a chore or an obligation. But what if they could be side effects of something we already enjoy? What if the act of shelling beans, watering plants, or playing a board game on the floor was enough to keep us sharper, steadier, and more alive? That's what these elders have figured out, and it's something we can all take to heart, no matter where we live. So the next time you find yourself reaching for something on a low shelf or sitting down to play with a child on the floor, think of it as more than just the task at hand. Think of it as a conversation. One that says, I'm still here. I can still do this. And I'm not done yet. Because every time you send that message from your body to your brain, and your brain sends it back, you're not just keeping yourself moving. You're keeping yourself connected, present, and ready for all the moments that matter. When you've avoided the floor for a long time, the idea of getting down there again can feel intimidating. Almost like standing at the edge of a pool, unsure if the water is too cold. But it doesn't have to be a leap. It can be a gentle wade, a quiet return to something your body once knew by heart. The key is to start small, in a way that feels safe, comfortable, and forgiving. First, choose your space wisely. Find a spot in your home that already feels familiar and inviting. Maybe it's the corner of your living room near a sunny window, or that patch of carpet beside your favorite chair. Lay down a yoga mat if you have one, or fold a thick blanket until it cushions your knees and hips. If the thought of a hard surface makes you tense, double the padding. This is not about proving toughness. There's no medal for discomfort here. This is about making peace with gravity again, about creating a place where your body can feel supported while it learns to move differently. Once you've found your spot, step 1 is simple. Sit for just 2 minutes a day. That's it. 2 minutes might not sound like much, but it's enough for your body to start waking up muscles it hasn't called on in a while. Sit in any position that feels kind to your joints, cross-legged, with your legs to the side, or one leg straight and the other bent. The short time limit matters because it's long enough for your body to notice the position, but not so long that it feels like a chore. In those 2 minutes, your thighs will gently hold you upright, your hips will open a little, your spine will lengthen without you forcing it, and your ankles will flex in ways they haven't in years. The first time I tried it, I felt a little silly, like I was rehearsing for a picnic that never came. But by the third day, I noticed my breathing slowed when I sat that way, almost like my body was relieved to be there. That's when I realized the floor wasn't my enemy. It was just unfamiliar. Step 2 comes next. Stand back up once or twice using whatever help you need. Put a sturdy chair nearby, use a wall, or place both hands on your knees. This isn't cheating. It's building trust between your mind and your muscles. Every assisted stand is a handshake, a reminder that your body still knows how to work together. The Tokyo Metropolitan Institute of Gerontology found in a 2018 study that older adults who practiced moving from the floor to standing at least 10 times a day maintained 18% better balance and 14% greater lower body strength than those who didn't. Walking alone didn't provide these benefits. The secret was in the multi-directional demands of standing from the floor, something you can't get from simply pacing around the block. To make it manageable, follow a simple 4-week plan. In week 1, spend 2 minutes seated daily and complete 1 or 2 assisted stands. In week 2, increase to 3 minutes seated and 3 stands per session. By week 3, choose 1 meal or cup of tea each week to enjoy on the floor. Notice how your body straightens naturally in that position. By week 4, pick your favorite time of day to be on the floor, whether it's with morning sunlight on your back or in the evening quiet when the house is settled. Add something you enjoy, a favorite song, a candle, or a warm cup of tea afterward, so it becomes more than exercise. It becomes a ritual. And if the floor still feels far away right now, start halfway. Use a low stool or a firm ottoman to practice partial squats, holding a countertop for stability. Let your knees bend only as far as they're willing. Over time, that distance will shrink. Think of it like learning to write with your non-dominant hand. It feels awkward at first, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't have to interrupt your day. You can weave it into the things you already do. Sit on the floor to fold laundry, so you naturally reach and twist. Repot a plant, letting the smell of soil mix with the quiet stretch of your back. Write a letter to a friend while seated low, your hand resting against the cool grain of the wooden floor. I once met Hiroshi, an 81-year-old fisherman who still knelt each spring to sort his lures. "If I sit in a chair, I lose track," he told me with a grin. Beneath the joke was something deeper. The floor kept him connected to his hobby, his balance, and his independence. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. These everyday tasks carry more weight than we give them credit for. They don't just strengthen muscles, they reinforce a sense of capability. Every time you kneel to tie a shoe, sit to play with a grandchild, or bend to check the bottom shelf, you're telling your body, we can still do this. And the more often you send that message, the more your body believes it. It's easy to dismiss small steps, but I've watched them add up in powerful ways. Clara, a 76-year-old from Arizona, began with 2 minutes of floor sitting each day. After 2 months, she surprised herself and her family by joining her grandkids on the living room rug to build a Lego tower. "I didn't even think about it," she said. "I just sat down and realized I wasn't worried about getting back up." That's the moment when the floor stops being a place you fall to and starts being a place you rise from. So, if you're standing at the edge, wondering whether to try, remember this. You're not training for a marathon, you're reclaiming a part of life that belongs to you. Start where you are, with what you have. Give your body a safe place to learn, a short time to adjust, and the gentle reminder that it's still capable. Before long, you might find yourself not just sitting on the floor, but enjoying it. Feeling steadier, lighter, more connected to the world around you. And that's the real win here. Not the number of stands you can do in a row, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can choose to move freely, without hesitation. Because every sit and every stand is more than just movement. It's a step back into the life you want to keep living. One winter morning in Kyoto, I met Meiko, 87 years old, living in a small apartment above a bakery. Every day she slid open her balcony door, knelt on a folded blanket, and watered 3 pots of chrysanthemums. "It's not about the flowers," she told me with a quiet smile. "It's about me still being able to reach them." I've carried those words with me ever since, because that's the deeper gift of staying connected to the floor. It's not just about muscles or balance, it's about touching the parts of life that matter most. You don't have to start big. Place your first plank with something small, a quilt beside your bed, a cushion near your favorite chair, a few minutes when the house is still. Let that be your bridge back to movements you thought you'd left behind. Over time, each small act becomes a statement. I'm still here. I can still take part. When you can sit with the grandkids on the rug, kneel to tend your garden, or join friends for tea at a low table, you're not just moving, you're participating. You're holding on to your role in the rhythm of family, community, and life itself. If this story has sparked something in you, I hope you'll share it, pass it along to someone who might need the reminder. And if you choose to join me in keeping these movements alive, know that every step or sit you take is more than exercise. It's an act of independence, of joy, and belonging.